Van Sessions Volume 8. As always, we've got the big man and myself doing the Van Sessions. Big man's going to be behind the camera on this one, and unfortunately you're stuck with me in front of the camera, but this one is a very, very special Van Sessions. We have got one of the co-founders of Jack Burr Band with us. It's Mr. Andy Burr.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon, Andy. You okay,
well, that
mate?
was professional, guys.
We're very, very good at just making it up on the spot.
Making bollocks. It's all downhill from here now, really, isn't it?
You speak for yourself.
So, I was trying to work out exact amount of years. I know it's about 25, 26 years we've known each other now.
It's a hazy past that I just can't recall. You know when you choose to forget something, you can't.
Yeah, I understand that one. I do understand that one.
I don't.
So, I mean, let's go all the way back. So I remember when ringing you up to get you to come down and have a jam with us. And literally, it was Tower Music on Topping Street. It's not there anymore. It's now a bed centre, and there was a little card about yay big, and it just said Andy Burr, guitarist, new to area, and a mobile number. And it was on their pinboard, but their pinboard had fallen off the wall.
Right.
So yours ended up being on the floor, literally little corner bit on the floor, and literally that's where I got you from. Rang you. And we came.
You picked me up off the floor.
Picked you up off the floor. Yeah, I think I even stole the card so nobody else could ring you.
That's slightly creepy, ladies and gentlemen.
So I remember then we'd arranged for you to come round, and at that time we used to practice at my mum and dad's house in their back room, and came round. We sat down and we basically just jammed out some songs and played around a little bit with some music.
As for the songs, I have no idea what we were doing.
No, I'd suggest it's probably songs we're still doing now, truthfully, because, you know...
Nelly the Elephant it was.
Anybody from the most recent gigs will understand the joke hidden behind that one. And I always remember a question in my head was about Jimi Hendrix. Do we do any do you know any Jimi Hendrix songs, etc.? Right. Because obviously, at that point in time, we didn't have lead guitar sound. We were just trying to work around with what we could play with, but we were trying to obviously go down some more lead guitar heavy songs.
Yeah.
And that's obviously Jimi Hendrix. We've been asked for from a few people have been saying to us, if you're going to put a band together, are you going to do Jimi Hendrix, etc.? And you then just literally said, well, what song do you want to do? Which one? And that always rings in my head. That you literally just were like, which song do you want to do? And you just started jamming loads of different Jimi Hendrix numbers.
I think at that time it coincided with my... I was a bit late to the party with Hendrix, and I got into him very late in my playing, and I just learned a lot of his materials. So maybe when you asked me, I was just like, this is what I can do, this is what I can do, this is what I can do. And I just reeled them all off. But no, when I first started, I couldn't play anything like that because I wasn't really into Hendrix. That was old hat, that was 60s music. But maybe that's what it was. You said, okay, can you play any Hendrix? Yeah, okay then. So that was probably just fortuitous at that moment in time.
Excellent. Well, works out quite nicely then. So we've got a few questions here. However, before we do that, Tez and I have set up...
It would make for a lousy interview if we didn't have any questions, Chris.
I know, but some of these questions have come from the fans of the band, you see, right. So we're just seeing them ourselves. But we've set up Guitarist versus Guitarist, and we want your personal opinion of who beats whom. But obviously, we're going to give you your first and your second one. Once we then give you your third one, it's going to be versus the one that you've already said you want to keep.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense?
This is not my first rodeo, Chris.
Excellent. Well, let's see how we go then. So, Brian May or Jimi Hendrix?
For commercial value, Brian May.
Okay. Brian May or Chuck Berry?
Brian May.
Okay. Brian May or Jeff Beck?
Jeff Beck.
Ooh. Jeff Beck or B.B. King?
Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck or Carlos Santana?
Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck or Tony Iommi?
Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck or Keith Richards?
Jeff Beck. Where are you getting these? Anyway, go on.
Well, they are guitarists, just saying that,
yeah.
you know. Jeff Beck or Stevie Ray Vaughan?
Oof. I'd say, at this moment in time, probably Jeff Beck.
Okay. Jeff Beck or Randy Rhoads?
Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck or Zakk Wylde?
Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck or George Harrison?
Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck or Jimmy Page?
Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck or Pete Townsend?
Jeff Beck.
Okay. Jeff Beck or Angus Young?
Oh, from a technical viewpoint, still Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck or Frank Zappa?
Frank Zappa is funny, but he wasn't really known as being some technical player. He was a good player, but I'd still say Jeff Beck.
Okay. Jeff Beck or Eddie Van Halen?
We had to change somewhere along the line. Eddie Van Halen.
So we're changing to Eddie Van Halen now.
Yeah.
Because that's been about, what, 20 Jeff Becks?
Yeah. Well, let me explain about Jeff Beck. Is because he's a guitar player, and a lot of the stuff he does is unreal with his whammy bar, which we'll probably talk about later. But it's so technical and so clever, and he was always advancing. Where most players don't advance, they just stay at that one particular level. But he kept advancing throughout his life.
Eddie Van Halen or Eric Clapton?
EVH.
Eddie Van Halen or David Gilmour?
Oh.
No pressure.
But completely different players. Completely different players. I'd still say, if you was to talk about influences, I'd still say Eddie Van Halen.
Okay. Eddie Van Halen or Richie Blackmore?
Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen or Alex Lifeson?
I'd say, could I say Eddie Van Lifeson?
What, have they merged together and become one?
As far as influencing my playing, they're both equal, I think.
Okay, but we need to pick one over the other.
No, you can't.
But you've got that's part of the
like
game.
asking me to pick my favourite child. You can't do it.
That's part of the game. That's what we've set up here. One or the other.
Okay. Alex Van Halen.
Alex.
Which actually is Eddie Van Halen's brother. Next.
Well, I can't say who. You've got to pick me one. You've got to pick me one. Eddie Van Halen or Alex Lifeson.
Okay, I'll don't hate me. Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen. Okay, last one then. Eddie Van Halen or Prince?
Eddie Van Halen. I can discuss reasons for that, but it's just still Eddie Van Halen. I wasn't going to go into that because it's just Prince is an all-encompassing musician. He's not just a guitar player.
Okay. Yep.
I think everybody bangs on about the "Wow, My Guitar Gently Weeps" video where he's coming out with his guitar solos. But he's not technical. He's got feel, yeah, but he's not like anybody else that you think, wow. You know, I've seen a few guitarists, and there's only been a couple that's made my jaw go like that. And I've seen Prince, and he didn't do that, unfortunately. You
were talking about Jeff Beck and his whammy bar and everything he does with the whammy bar. Well, first of all, for anybody who's not necessarily a guitarist, what is the whammy bar? What does it do?
Probably shot myself in the foot because I haven't got a guitar.
We haven't got a guitar, no. I want to see you explain this without a guitar in front of you.
Well, sometimes you'll see me, not with a pair of glasses in my hand, but with a guitar, and you'll see me press down on something that looks similar to that. That's the whammy bar.
Right, okay.
Right? It can go up, which sends a pitch of the note up, or it can go down.
Okay.
Right? What Jeff Beck, and it's very difficult to control what notes you want to go to if you're pulling up and down. Jeff Beck was a master at it. Absolute master. And there's so many players that I respect who say the same thing. That think, no, well, Steve Lukather is one. You should have put him on your list because he's fantastic. One of his famous quotes is, "I'm just a turd in a punch bowl of guitar players," and he's he's up there.
Yeah.
So to say that about Jeff Beck is just unreal.
Okay, so what does the whammy bar then do? What?
I just told you that. Have you listened?
No. You told us what it is, but
yeah.
what does it actually do?
Changes the note sound.
Changes the note
goes
sound.
up or down. You don't listen.
That
do
is.
You just
That's
don't
all
listen.
it does. Just changes the note sound, goes up
Gets
or down.
different sounds out. It can do special effects with it. You know, it can make it sound like an elephant.
You can make it sound
Yes.
like an
Or a horse
see when you
whinnying.
explained it before, you never said that part, did you?
Horse whinnying.
A horse whinnying.
Yeah. Do you know what that is?
Well, I'm not very equine based, I've got to admit.
Well, we know that. Holak. Church dormouse. No, whinnying is just. I can't do the sound, obviously.
But you've just tried
with a guitar.
With a guitar, you can make it sound that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's, different things you can do with a whammy bar. Making your guitar sound like an elephant. Making your guitar sound like a horse.
Very nice. Okay.
Or a tremolo arm, if you want to.
Or a tremolo arm.
Yeah. Which is a bit of a misnomer, really, because a tremolo makes something wibble wobble. It's the wrong term for it, so most people call it a whammy bar now.
Which guitarist was responsible for the birth of Andy Burr?
You'd have to ask my mum that. what kind of question's that?
I think they're trying to find out who was the person that you sort of heard playing.
Yeah, it's
decided.
Who asked that?
But can't tell you that. As he waves behind the camera. I can't ask you that. As the big man then waves.
I can go right back to when it happened. Was I don't know about you. You're still too young, aren't you? But when you used to listen to the radio top 40 every Sunday evening, you used to have it used to be on a tape recorder as well, and you'd be trying to stop before the DJ came back in.
Absolutely.
And there were two songs that stood out to me. There was one, The Police, So Lonely, and the other one was Living After Midnight by Judas Priest. And it was something that I thought it was really good. The solo on Living After Midnight by Judas Priest, it had like a bit of a squeak to it. I thought, that's so cool. How the hell do you get that sound? Years later, I know it's called a pinched harmonic. And it was that, purely that. And I got into Judas Priest then on in. And then I was listening to So Lonely because my brother, and he was recording stuff off the radio as well, and So Lonely. When I listened back to that So Lonely song, it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. I mean, Andy Summers was a bit left field when it came to doing things, but yeah, those two. So those are what gave birth to my guitar playing.
Very good. Very good. So, if any, following obviously hearing those two songs, are there any guitarists that then changed the shape or style of your playing?
Well, from the beginning?
Yeah, from the beginning.
There's a lot, really. There's too many to mention, and a lot of the players I would mention you've probably never heard of, and you'd have to Google them. But Eddie Van Halen, when I first heard him, and everybody was doing it in the 80s, he had a big influence, as did Joe Satriani and Steve Vai. But before that, and I have to recognise, obviously, Alex Lifeson from Rush, but also a guy called Ian Crichton from a Canadian prog rock band called Saga. And if you listen to a song, it'd be on Spotify, called It's Time, he makes the guitar sound like a car when he's coming in. And it's a brilliant solo. Even now, he puts the hairs on the back of my neck up when I listen to it. So yeah, probably Ian Crichton, Alex Lifeson, Judas Priest, which is KK down in Glen Tipton, And then when you get a bit more into it, Eddie Van Halen came into it, Joe Satriani. There's loads of people, because you go through different stages as a musician. You go through liking any kind of music. I went through a stage of liking jazz, I went through a stage of like a bit of country, and there were some fantastic players in both of those genres. I listen to classical music. That doesn't really affect my guitar playing, but I love listening to it.
Well, you do interject some classical music into certain songs at times, don't you? You throw that in, to which whereby I normally throw out a comment afterwards, and it sort of...
Yeah, it's usually insulting.
But that's what people know us to be, you know. Insult each other, play some music, insult each other a little bit more.
I don't know, I get deeply offended by it.
At this point, can I just chuck a quick question in that you haven't got written down there?
Oh, go for it, big man.
Andy, who's the worst bassist you've ever played with?
You know, when I think was it John Lennon who was asked who is Ringo the best drummer in the world?
Yeah, yep.
And John Lennon's response was, he's not even the best drummer in the Beatles.
Yeah.
It's a bit like me and him.
Oh dear.
So have you ever heard a bum note from our bassist?
Plenty of them.
It would be easier to say, have you ever heard a right note from me?
It happens. At least you know it's live.
This is it, Chris.
Yeah. And has he actually ever been able to play through one whole song, one specific song, the whole way through without getting it wrong? No, he's never.
No, not without me giving him the side eye.
Although there wasn't as much side eye on the Washington. We were at the Washington on the 24th. We didn't have as much side eye going on there.
No, I've just let it go now. Just let it. What's the point of upsetting myself all night about it?
Brilliant. Well, funny enough, I'm just going to backtrack ever so slightly, because you said made the sound of a car on the lead solo part. I was watching a documentary regarding Meatloaf and Bat Out Hell song, the specific Bat Out Hell song, and of course the album as well. And Meatloaf was saying he'd done all the vocals on it, they'd done all the recording of all the different parts and whatever else, and the part where all of a sudden the motorbike starts up, that wasn't in after it had been originally sort of all put together, and Meatloaf was listening to it, and he turned to the guys that were in producing and everything and said, hang on a minute, you promised me there'd be a bike, we could get a bike on and we could rev it up and we could do it that way. And the guitarist, can't remember the guy's name now off the top of my head, it was a couple of months ago I was watching it, walked in to the recording studio and said, all right, well, you want a bike? And he did the bike sound on the guitar, so the sound you hear on Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell, where everybody now goes, oh, that's the motorbike starting up, it's actually a guitar, it is making that noise. And I was... For years, I've always believed that was an actual motorbike. I didn't actually know it was a guitar made that sound until obviously I've watched that documentary.
I can't remember. I remember reading about the guitar player on that album. I can't remember. He's quite a famous person. I think he must have done sessions as well. But there's something about. I don't hate on me, but the Meatloaf guitar sound, that's so tinny to me. You know, there's nothing wrong with the playing at all, nothing wrong with his music, but it's just, I can't listen to it because of it's really, really thin sounding. And so, yeah, I like Meatloaf, but I just can't listen to him because of the sound. A bit funny like that.
But everybody's allowed to have their own quirks, that's one of your quirks, that's the way it goes. Obviously, being a guitarist, you've played many different guitars. Many different guitars. So, at an estimate, so we're asking for an estimate here, unless you've got a specific number and you know it.
Go on.
As an estimate, how many guitars have you actually owned, played, and then either still got or got rid of? How many guitars in the period of you playing guitar? How many guitars have you had? I'm not being ignorant.
I'm not like I don't know where my phone is, but I did actually create an inventory a couple of years ago of how many guitars I had. I'd seen and bought and let go again, it's probably about 80 something.
Wow.
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 Yeah.
That's...
At this moment in time, I've stopped, and I do mean that I have stopped. It's if I do get something else in, it's one in, one out.
Right, okay.
And the most I've had in one collection is probably about 15, 16. But in all the years I've been playing, it's probably 80 odd guitars that I've owned.
Wow. Wow, that's...
But the way I reconcile it with myself is that, you know, if I'd have been a petrol head and been massively into cars like my dad was, the amount would still be cheaper than being a petrol head. The cost of it would still be cheaper.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So how many have you got currently then?
9.
As it stands? You've got 9 as
9,
it stands. Yeah. Okay. Is there one of those 9 that you go, that's the one that I'm always wanting to play, or is it they're equally getting an airing, shall we say?
I try and put them on a rotation so each one gets, like I said, an airing, but you're always looking for the Holy Grail. I have a go-to guitar when I'm playing with Jack Burr Band, and that seemed to have fallen out of favour for some reason. But as a guitar player, looking for the Holy Grail, and I think I found it. I might jinx it here, but I'm not going to say what it is.
Okay, no,
I think
fine.
I found it, and I'm really, really happy with it because it's got every sound that I want out of it. It's quite straightforward and easy to play, and it's lightweight, and I like everything about it. But I'm not going to jinx it by saying what it is. But yeah, 9 guitars, and out of those 9 guitars, I want that one now to be the main one.
Right. Okay. So we're going to start seeing that one at more gigs.
Possibly. Yeah.
Okay.
There's probably 2 guitars that you've never seen. Both of them, you know, I don't want to bring out of the house. One of them's made to look a really old Les Paul kind of thing, and that's precious to me. And the other guitar is precious to me, not in as much as it's old and all this carry on, but it because it's got my mum and dad's signature on it.
Right. Okay.
So I'll never bring that out. That'll be used for like recording wise, but nothing else. Yeah, those 2 you'll never see.
So, obviously, Jack Burr Band utilised our names for it, our surnames for it, and Phil had to retire last year from playing the drums. His hands just couldn't hold it anymore. But we've been wondering, what was it like in the Burr household with you wanting to learn and play guitar, and then Phil wanting to learn and play the drums? I mean, it must have been noisy.
Not really, no, because it didn't work out like that. I'd love to say that that's one of the reasons why my mum was on medication for a long time. But it wasn't. It was... I mean, I don't know how to explain it properly, but I mean, what had happened was when we were growing up, my brother had a huge... It's like when you speak to anybody, and when I've read interviews with famous people or whatever, it's usually the siblings or the parents that influence their music, their choice of music, what they listen to.
Yeah.
And it was no different with me, because my brother used to listen to a lot of, you know, rock music. He would have posters of UFO, Scorpions, and whoever was on AC/DC on his wall, and he would listen to that music, and I got influenced by that, you know. But as far as playing musical instruments, both... I had a friend who lived down the road who was slightly older than me, 4 or 5 years older than me, Martin. He was into the same music, everybody in the same street, and he got a guitar before I did, and so I was playing on cardboard boxes because I wanted to be, you know, involved with the music. Playing on cardboard boxes or pans in his mum's house. And then I moved up to a Bontempi organ and pressing start and stop on the drums.
Amazing.
And that's how I got into music. Obviously my brother's a bit slightly older than I am. He got into drums in his own way. You know, he'll tell you himself that, you know, some escapades that he got to when he was playing drums. But we didn't all do it in the house at the same time. It wasn't like that. we just got into it at different times, and just by pure fortune, really. We both got into music. He got into singing before he played drums, I think, and then he got into drums, and mine was always guitar playing. The only noisy times that we had was probably when because I created my own band when I was like 15. My mum and dad used to disappear to a Catholic club on a Sunday evening, and I'd invite my friends round, and we'd never played instruments before. We were all learning as we went along, so we'd have a drummer, keyboard player, and me. Before we even had a drummer, we had somebody playing a little keyboard, and I'd be playing guitar through it. And so that's how it was, really. There was no noisy household in that respect.
So I mean, I only go off me growing up, learning to play bass. My brother decided to learn to play guitar, so obviously there was the two of us practicing quite a bit when we were younger. But you can turn an amp down. Obviously with drums you can hit them a little softer, but you're still going to get a reasonably decent noise from them, shall we say, even when you're trying to hit them softly. Yeah.
Like as I said, it never was like that, to be fair. No.
Intriguing. So what did your parents think of you getting into music then?
My dad hated it, to begin with anyway, because he thought you should have had a proper job. You should, be doing this, that and the other. But music took over my life when I was from about 13, 14 onwards. So that was my last schoolwork. Was my last thing.
Yeah.
So my dad realised that. My mum realised that. My mum was always more in favour of it, but my dad didn't like it to begin with. No.
Right.
But Chorley's, where I was born and brought up, was quite a provincial town anyway. If I'd have been brought up in Manchester, for example, it would have been completely different scene, as it would have been for yourself as well.
Yeah. Totally.
Heaven knows what would have happened if it was a completely different place that we were brought up in.
Yeah. So whenabouts in your playing did your dad sort of turn around and go, well, all right then, yeah, well...
I think other people would tell him how I could play, and I think he witnessed me playing. Not very often, but he wouldn't say anything if he did. But he would. I remember watching a video of Stevie Ray Vaughan with him. He said, he's alright, isn't he? And so I knew then he'd change his whole perspective about guitar playing.
Yeah.
And he would buy ornaments for the garden with somebody playing guitar. So I knew then I was pretty much in favour. He was in favour of me playing guitar because I never gave it up. I mean, don't forget when children start an hobby, you don't know how long it's going to last.
No, totally.
And I think maybe at the beginning he thought that it wasn't going to last, but here we are, so many years later, and it's stuck with me. So yeah, I think he could see that later on in his life that it wasn't just a passing phase.
Yeah.
So he respected that.
Brilliant. So what got you into music in the first place? Because you spoke about, obviously, you got influence from your brother's music, you got influence from music around you. But what was the trigger? What was that? So obviously you'd listen to certain songs and you liked the sound of it. Was that the trigger that got you into music as a whole? Because I know you're not just an accomplished guitarist. You can play keyboard, drums, bass. You can play a lot of different instruments in that respects. What got you into all of that, into that actual music scene, going, yeah, this is something I want to do, this is...
I can probably trace it back to, it's hard to believe now, but I can probably... I was probably about 3 years old. I remember playing on, these pull-along xylophones that kids used to have. I remember making sounds on that and being intrigued by that, and then my mum and dad would have music going on in the house. I remember greatest hits of Stylistics, anything from that kind of disco music to Glenn Miller, old jazz bands and things. So I was always surrounded by music, even though my mum and dad didn't push me to be in music. I was always surrounded by it. So it was always something I enjoyed. And then when as I said about this getting into rock music and somebody marching down the road playing guitar, and I wanted to play guitar as well. It was like it was always there, and I had to do something with it. So that's how I got into music. But it's it's the power of music, isn't it? It can make you feel any kind of emotion.
Yeah, totally. And there's songs that when you hear them played takes you back to a certain point in your life as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be. Music can be very nostalgic.
Yeah.
Even now I listen to some stuff, think, wow, that transports me back immediately to a certain time and place.
Yeah.
I think it would do with anybody, I imagine.
Yeah, it happens a lot to me. Different songs I listen to, also from different eras, different genres as well. Listen to that song and I go, oh yeah, I remember this, I remember that. I think music is very, I'm going to say very giving in that respects. It brings back memories for you, it makes you feel, it's a very giving...
Yeah, I mean, it has featured a lot in my life, to the point I think my first record that I bought was probably, it was either Dippity Day by the Smurfs or Combine Harvester by the Wurzels.
Amazing.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
The first one you ever bought was one of those two.
Yeah. It wasn't anything, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. It wasn't anything like that. It was god awful.
Wow.
But I still listen to them with fond memories and think, hey, Dippity Day.
Soon to come to a
I didn't even know Combine Harvester was a cover version with different lyrics. I can't remember who sang the original now.
That's brand new information to me.
Honestly, you'll have to look it up.
I'm going to have to now. Yeah. That's just... Adele has had a big hit with To Make You Feel My Love, but you trace it all the way back. Garth Brooks did a version of it that was massive from the country scene, but if you go, oh yeah, Garth Brooks sang this, sometimes some people go, who's Garth Brooks? And other times people go, oh yeah, kind of remember it on an album somewhere.
Yeah.
But obviously it was Bobby Dylan that wrote it and originally performed it, but it's gone through all these years of just sort of lying there, and then all of a sudden Adele's brought it out, and everybody's like, oh, this is an amazing song, but it's been there for years.
Bobby Dylan?
Bob Dylan, yeah.
Do you know him that well?
I do. Me and Bob, yeah.
Had this discussion before.
Bobby Dylan.
Junior
me
brothers.
And Bobby, like that.
That's me on top, by the way.
Yeah. Last name's Helmut.
That's not getting cut out, you know that, don't you?
Oh dear God. See,
I thought this was serious.
No, it's. I don't think we've managed to ever do a serious one in
philosophical. Truth. And what do we get? Bobby's helmet.
Love it.
Oh, good God. Good God. I don't know, where the hell were we now? That's completely...
You're on top of Bob Dylan.
I was on top of Bob Dylan.
Bobby Dylan, sorry.
Oh, God. Right, so we've talked quite a bit about sort of the past in respects of how you came about it, etc. Let's now fast forward to us starting out, going out as a band and performing. What's your memories of us starting out in those really early years?
We do have good memories, and it's one of those things that again music brings about. But yeah, I don't think there's any one in particular that I can trace back and say that was absolutely fantastic or that was goddamn awful. There's too many.
It's ups and downs, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, one of my fondest memories when we sort of started out, because you used to, obviously you lived closer, so you used to drive through, we'd load up the van, and then you'd jump in the van with me, and we'd go off and turn up at wherever we had to play and whatever else.
I'm still having therapy for that.
But I mean, of course, this is going back in the day before we had sat-nav to get us where we had to go. And
I know where this is going to. I know. Yeah.
I would lay out the route on the maps and exactly write out. Turn to page 52. So we could follow where we needed to be and where we had to go. And every time, and it's no exaggeration. Every time we always missed at least one turn off, didn't we? We always missed at least one turn on.
Yeah.
And that's before we even got to the gigs and started enjoying the music. For me, it was a bit of a laugh a minute in the van driving there. But it was always happening every time.
I've got a small confession to make, and that is I think I'm geographically dyslexic. I can get lost going to the toilet. Seriously. It was only the other night in Washington I thought, why have I been going over there all this time to that far distant toilet when there's one here?
Yeah.
And my fear is if I came out of this toilet here, I wouldn't know which way to turn, even though it's right there. And I've done that in so many places. I get lost very, very easily.
We've gigged together for years and years and years and years. Is there a particular song that we do that you go, yeah, I really like this song and I enjoy our interpretation of it? Because we don't necessarily play the songs to the exact letter of the record, or with the exact bar, or we might add in an extra verse or whatever. But is there one particular song that you go, yeah, every gig when we do that one song, that really does it for me? Is there one, or is it just you just enjoy playing them all in general?
I told you not to ask me closed questions.
That's fine.
No,
that's fine.
I was going to be flippant and say, yeah, I'd love to be able to play Nelly the Elephant night after night. But no, I don't think there is any particular one. I like being tested. I like being challenged. So if you throw something out, I might moan about it at the beginning, but I like being challenged because it, keeps me ticking over, and yeah, because there are occasions, believe it or not, where I think, what chord comes next? And I'm thinking, right. And a bit of music theory comes in, it must be that chord, and 9 times out of 10 I'm right, but on the odd occasion I'll get it wrong. So yeah, I do like being challenged. I shouldn't really have told you that.
From a viewer's point of view, you always you always seem to really enjoy playing Rosie. You playing, you singing, definitely. You seem to really enjoy that song.
I think that stems back to probably when I was like a young lad, and there was one particular day we used to, me and Phil and Martin as well, there was probably somebody else there, we used to go out with a Ghetto Blaster, and he would have, Phil would put tapes in, it might be a live album by Scorpions, or it might be If You Want Blood, You've Got It, AC/DC, and of course on that was a Whole Lot of Rosie.
Yeah.
And there was one particular occasion where I dressed up as Angus Young, walking around the streets of Charlie dressed up as Angus Young.
Brilliant.
So I suppose that, because it's AC/DC as well, that probably does give me a lot of, pleasure to play that. So yeah, maybe you're right in that respect.
Now, hopefully you can settle something for everybody that's watching this, because we've spoke about previously on different ones whereby our Christmas party, it's usually always at the Washy. We've had one year where it's not been at the Washy, but when we do a Christmas party, it's normally our last gig of the year, as late on in December as we can make it, and Stuart at the Washy's always put us on for it, and we've had a great night there. And when we've done that, there's always been surprises in store. Can you confirm now, because obviously Tez and I have spoken about this to people previously, can you confirm, are you aware of those surprises that are taking place?
To be completely frank.
Well, you can be frank if you wish.
Of course I knew, it's all a lie, we all know all this. Yeah. No, we don't. Because each time I look and think, what the fuck are we doing now? And that's the truthfulness of it, because I thought, oh, for fuck's sake, what's going to happen now? And 9 times out of 10 I'll be thinking, okay, what key is this? And I'll just noodle about on that. Phil will noodle about on the drums, and we're thinking, will this pleasure never end? But yeah, it's completely unscripted as far as I'm concerned. I've not a clue what's going on. I only wish I knew. Then I wouldn't be at the back standing about like a spare part.
You just wouldn't turn up.
I wouldn't. You'd get me on FaceTime. Yeah. and then but the pain cuts deep. It's just one of those things. No, it's part and parcel of the Washington, isn't it? It's traditional. I can't really give him advice because I can't even advise myself on what to do at that particular time.
But I mean, for years, people have been asking me, does everybody actually know, or you just sort of let on that you don't know?
To me, it's been part of a musician to be creative, and that can happen at any time, And all through the night, there's one or two solos that I stick rigidly to, and that's usually like the first two solos of Dire Straits, and then after that, I'll just do what I want.
Mm.
And maybe Hotel California. As for anything else, I make it up as I go along. And I think that's what you do when you're a musician. You've got to have this creative side to you. So anything that happens on the spur of the moment, it's just like, okay, what could I play on this?
And well, there's always something that happens on the spur of the moment. I mean, even songs we've been playing for years, all of a sudden I'll sing a verse when it should have been the chorus, and you just automatically you've got to adapt to it, because I've started singing it and playing it.
That's when I give you a side eye, thinking in my head all the time, what a cock.
What
How many fucking years have we been playing this? How many? That's in the head, that. All the time I'm going...
Yeah, smiling about it. Just carrying on. Well, I mean, obviously, we've just started picking a few new ones and putting them into the set list, and obviously we've been working most recently on Red Light Spells Danger. And when
Smells Danger.
I said spells. I didn't say smells danger.
It's like a Lynx advert, Stephen. Have you seen that? Who vile is that? Who goes around sniffing somebody's ring piece? Take two.
Okay, so we've obviously recently been putting some new songs in. Red Light Spells Danger is our most recent one. But at the Washy, you'd gone off on your solo that we've only, as I say...
I had no idea I was doing that.
No, you just decided to go into a solo at that point, and it works. But then I decided, actually coming out of that, it'd be nicer to do another middly 8 chorus bit. And we had no idea that was going to happen. I had no idea it was going to happen. It was just... We'd done it at the brew room, or Rhythm and Brew Room, on the previous gig, and it sounded a lot better than when we played it the very first time at the White Bear.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I just thought, you know what I think would sound really better there is to go back into it. After your solo, go back into that bit and then finish off. So, I mean, even from that perspective, with new songs, when we're trialling new songs, we're constantly chopping and changing them and adding bits in, taking bits out. Because to my memory, I don't think the original song has a guitar solo in it.
No, it doesn't. It's only about 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
But that's what we do, because we don't rehearse by any stretch of imagination. Any new song that we think we can do, you go away and learn your bits, I go away and learn my bits. 9 times out of 10, nobody told Phil, but with Paul now, we have to tell him, and then and he might already know it, or he might come up with his own bit. Yeah. And then it just evolves from that. And before, 10 years later, we've managed to
have a version of it
that we're all happy with.
Yeah.
Unless it's Nelly the Elephant.
The Elephant.
Which is really this, the fly in the ointment for you, isn't it?
It's doing my nut in that song, it really is. What song isn't on the list that you think should be on the list, that we should be learning and bringing out at new gigs?
Oh, gosh. I don't know, really, because obviously there's several factors you've got to consider. If it's a song that I like has got keyboards in, would I be able to pull it off with a guitar? If it's something that's got a slightly tricky bass line and you have to sing it at the same time, so there's that to think about. Whether it's a new song that might be in the charts now and then disappears from it existence 2 months later, so it's pointless learning that song just for one particular thing. So you gotta there's lots of things to consider. For me, it's finding something that's a classic, not overly done by many other people, but also that sounds good as well. And I can't really think of one at the moment. Maybe Tez can.
I've got one. I've asked for it over a year ago. Come on, Chris, what is it? You know what it is.
He's forgotten.
And I've not forgotten. It's Nickelback. He wants us to do Nickelback, and it's Animal.
I'm not familiar with that one, to be honest with you. I'll have to have a listen to that one. I'll tell you one of the bad things about doing social clubs in that particular time frame was having to put bloody suits on.
Yes.
I hated that.
Yeah, making us all look the same and look all, what was it, Clubland? Make us look Clubland.
Titland.
Titland.
That's what we looked like. Well, I felt like one anyway. Feeling one now.
Yeah.
But no, it was...
Yeah, that was an expectation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That we came out looking. We couldn't just walk out in what we were wearing.
These things feed back to me as well. There was one particular gig, I think it might have been the Liverpool one, where we all had to stand up for the Queen. And
Yes, I remember.
And we
this
were
one.
waiting at the side of the stage.
In the wings, yeah.
Yeah, waiting in the wings for this
Yeah.
MC to say yes, and now we will all stand for the Queen.
No, it was the bit before it. It was the bit before it. He said, right, we're going to have the band out. So I went walking out on stage.
On his own, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
you guys, because literally, he says, right, we're going to have the band out. I literally started walking, and he went, but just before that, please rise for the Queen. And you literally just stopped in the doorway, and I literally ended up walking out onto the stage and was stood there on me Todd.
Yeah, that was funny.
Well, it was for you guys. It wasn't for me at the time, having to stand there.
Yeah, change of underwear was needed. Shall I tell you about this for you? My first public performance.
Oh, go on then, your first public performance.
And this is probably why I hate the song, right, that we play.
There's a few songs I've got in my head now.
But there was, as I mentioned early on during this interview, was that my friend Martin had a guitar, and me and him started learning to play almost side by side, learning to play together. But he was about 6 months ahead of me, and we both went to the same Charlie Guitar Centre. I only lasted about 3 months doing some lessons from this guy. But he says, my mum's got us a first gig. So, oh yeah, this was at Chorley Hospital. They were having a Christmas party somewhere. No idea where it was. And I think I must have been about 13, 14. House of the Rising Sun. Right? In full Christmas party, the whole of Chorley Hospital party mode. I was absolutely atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. I honestly, if I could play one chord and get that right, I'd have been brilliant. But I couldn't. And then he's like, "Oh, you were brilliant," because I had my goofy teeth and full of freckles. And that was my first public performance.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was it just one song? Was that
just that one song?
Just
Yeah.
that one
God,
song.
he couldn't put him through any more pain. I know it's an hospital and they have treatment for things like that, but no.
On that note, can I tell you my favourite bassist?
Go on.
Andy Burr.
That is true. You're a phenomenal bassist as well. As much as a guitarist, you're a phenomenal bassist as well.
I think one gig mean I should change instruments.
Yeah, that'd be horrific.
What would you play?
Well,
Triangle. Badly.
I was going to say, see, that's the thing. I never class myself as being...
Anything.
Yeah, anything. Yeah, I just don't class
A singer.
myself. Just don't class myself.
Human being. A pool cue.
No,
television camera.
None of the above.
Maybe we should get Bobby to tell us what you want.
Hey, you leave my mate Bobby Dylan alone.
I love her. A lousy lover.
Okay, Andy, so we're coming to sort of the end of our discussion, let's put it as.
Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy. So a couple of bits just to round us off. So to finish us off, can you list your top 5 guitarists from number 5 to number 1? What's your top 5?
No, I can't.
You can't.
No, there's too many. And as I said earlier on, that you depending on what day and mood you're in, that list can change dramatically. If I was to speak from today, I would probably say Marco Sfogli. Who's that? An Italian guy. Joe Satriani. Ian Crichton. How many have I said?
3.
I've only said 3. Well, I've got 4 fingers there.
No idea. That's your counting ability.
I would then say Steve Vai. And then finally, I would probably say, as I probably mentioned before, Richard Kotzen.
Very good. Very good.
If you've never heard of those guys before, I suggest you Google them. As I said, Ian Crichton, the band Saga, a song called It's Time on Spotify. The lyrics are atrocious at the beginning. They really are. Long and tall ones, short and small ones is the very first line. And you think, what's he going to be singing about here? But the guitar solo, it's back of mine. There is on back of mine that go up every time.
Okay. If you could go back in time to the birth of JBB when we started up,
I wouldn't turn up.
I was going to say, what advice would you give to your younger self? So just not turn up.
Just not turn
Just not turn up.
Yeah.
Don't go.
Don't
turn up. Don't answer the phone call on this day at that time. Don't answer.
I would probably say to myself, don't rush to buy so many guitars.
Take it slower.
Yeah, because I wouldn't change any single day that I've been with JBB, but what I would change is probably the equipment.
Yeah.
And not be a prat about certain things. Because it's like, you let some guitars go and you think, I shouldn't have done that. And you buy some guitar and you think, I shouldn't have done that either. So yeah, that's the only thing really. I wouldn't change anything with JBB per se. Okay.
And then to finish us off, next 5 years of JBB, what do you think? What's your predictions? What's going to go on? What's going to happen?
I don't know really. I mean, we've seen a dramatic change in the last few years in regards to popularity, and I think in some part that's been helped along by the merch and by the photography, the videos and everything like that. So
definitely,
I think that has helped tremendously, and I think that will probably grow and grow.
Superb.
To the point where you'll be forced to know Nelly the Elephant inside and out.
In 5 years' time. That's
5 years' time, yeah.
So that's it now set.
Yeah.
In 5 years' time, I will be able to perform Nelly the Elephant.
I'm glad it's put Nelly the Elephant at the end of that sentence.
Andy, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure.
I would like to say it's been a pleasure too. Unfortunately, it's been not. This is 2 hours of my life that I can't get back. And if my children are watching this in 2030...
What? Your children in 2030? Why are they only going to watch it in 2030?
Because they might look back in, 2030 think, my God, he did suffer.
Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure joining you on the Van Sessions. I'm glad we finally got you to come down and do a Van Sessions with us.
Yes.
So that's been really nice. So, so from myself, Andy and the big man, we'll see you later.